I know like there's people out there that are uncomfortable when their partner like scrolls and sees a photo of a person on Instagram and stuff like that. And I understand where it comes from. I'm not like judgmental in that sense, but I think it is important to kind of, if it's happening to you as a woman, to think like, why is this like this? Where does it come from? What part of me does it trigger?
It's often like, oh, you should just not be bothered, or this shouldn't
Jealousy
be
is just a feeling.
yeah, like
Let it go. It will go away. Like, do
exactly.
you know what my body is doing right now?
Yeah.
Exactly. I am Yo Big Rube,
And I'm your girl, Sherri J.
and we just closed out a really dope conversation with Duytinya of Angelssex, and it was really, really dope. We met them, well, Sherri, she's your friend that you met online. Y'all been developing a friendship the last couple of years, and then this just materialized out of it, and they are content creators and other things, and it was just it was a really good conversation. I left the conversation as usual. I did not want to stop the recording. I didn't want to end the conversation because it feels like every time we like connect with these folks that we have like friendships with that we've built online, and we get to see them face to face, it feels like so special.
Yeah.
I don't want to like, it's like I got that bad habit. I don't want to hang up the phone like.
And I just want to sit by a fire and talk about this stuff all night long.
Yeah, exactly. It really hits.
You know what we need to do? We need to get a house and have a bunch of people come and have a little weekend. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
That would be super cool.
That would be very cool.
Then we can chat about this over fire.
Yes,
and s'mores.
You would be in your element because you are very much
You're like,
about
yes,
the fire.
sir, you would enjoy the fire.
Yes, you. I mean, it would be fun, and I would
Yeah.
enjoy it. But that is that is hella you all day long.
Yeah, I think it would be fun someday. That would be cool.
So, I
Sorry, I distracted.
No.
I brought us to s'mores and fires.
it was a good conversation.
It was an awesome conversation, and I'm so glad we finally had it.
Me too. Y'all are gonna appreciate it. I cannot wait. So without further ado, Duytinya, in I was gonna say in honor of or in service of Duytinya.
On behalf of?
Yeah, on behalf of Angelssex and Doima. Yo, this is a good conversation. Y'all stick around, watch it to the very end. Let us know how we did. And I think that's.
And before you do that,
everything.
subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe. But should we ask them to subscribe now, or should we be asking them
subscribe
at the
it's
back
worth
end?
It. It'll be worth it. People
Always worth the wait.
Yeah.
If you know, you know, because I just stole that from Wretch 32 from what is the show that I love? Behind Fire in the Booth, Charlie Sloth. And if you have a chance, watch the Fire in the Booth with Charlie Sloth, Wretch 32, and Avellino, because it is so fucking fire. It is so dope. So dope. So dope.
You just gotta listen to it, though. You just gotta listen to it. Pay attention to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to be. I feel like we can say that. Yo, we worth the wait. So anyway, y'all
enjoy.
By the way, I love your guys' logo and your branding. Everything just looks so nice. Just such a nice thing to look at. Your photos on your page, everything just perfect.
Oh, thank you so much. That is all her. She is the one who does all the visual design. Yeah, that is 100% all her.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We were just saying the same about you guys' the videos that you made over Halloween. We're like, this is so fun, and like I love all the like there is story in it, even if there's not like a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you can do so much without actually saying any words.
Yeah.
And it's like from the lighting and the sound. I also like y'all have a good sense of humor too, because you do little sound effects that like a sense of humor type of thing. And I feel like you do little coupley things in your films, even though like with the Intruder one, it doesn't. I don't know whether in that the characters are supposed to be couplers or not, but like the little cute things y'all did is like I don't know. I think that was the things that make it, for us at least, it made it connect for us. We really appreciate your film, like, and I love like a lot of the effects too. Like I love the little glitch effect and stuff that's in
Yeah.
there. Like it's
We're
funny
starting to like get into that stuff too. So we're like seeing every little thing.
watching it, like trying to be filmmakers and watching. Okay, you see how they did that? You see it, and like even asking ourselves, like, because like a lot of them are like 3-4 minutes, and we're wondering how long did it actually take to shoot that, and noticing like outside the window was dark on one part of the film, on the other part it was daytime. We're like, did they do that on purpose? Did it take 2 days? Because we're like, you just never know, because you could have hung a covering over the window to make it look like it was nighttime. And
I wish
like,
I wish we did go that far, but no.
you do a really good job. We were really impressed with it. So
Thank you so
like
much.
we're studying your craft, because you do a great job with communicating story.
Thank you so much. But we are as well just starting. We just discovered this way of telling stories without actually speaking, and it's not really the only reason we're doing it is because we're not good at acting. So it's kind of the only way to do it at this moment. But maybe in the future we get into a bit of acting, and maybe we can do the narrative with like actual acting.
So is this what you did for Halloween, your Halloween movies? Is that different than your normal style? Or is it like similar?
It is. It is different, I would say. We do go for that kind of darker, weirder aesthetic, but this had like an actual story to it, which we do rarely. But yeah, this was kind of rare for us.
Very cool.
It was very
It was
cool.
good.
Yeah, it felt like it was like it felt like it like without knowing you, obviously, it felt like a perfect fit. Like y'all just like, it just worked really, really good. I feel like, I know like what you're saying about you're not actors, but I feel like it's like you're just the right kind of actors, because it's clearly acting, but it's like you injecting so much of your personality in the characters that you're playing. I think that's what makes it fun too and enjoyable. It's like, I feel like we can see both sides of y'all. Without knowing you, we can see both sides of you in the characters you're playing. I think it's really cool. I mean, if you end up adding dialogue at some point in the future, I'm sure that'll be really dope too.
Yeah.
But I think y'all do a really good job.
Yeah, that is so nice to hear. I appreciate that so much, because to me we just made like a silly video, but to hear people are actually like enjoying it, that's so nice to hear. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's really cool.
I think I couldn't remember if it was a year or 2 ago, because for me everything feels like forever ago. One of us slid into each other's DMs on Instagram talking about the purity culture thing, and we immediately connected on that. And it wasn't until like, I feel like it was like 6 months or even a year later that I realized you and your husband actually do make these films together. And I was like even more intrigued. I was like, we have to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't talk about it on Instagram because it's very difficult to promote on Instagram. You can't promote
I can
on
imagine.
Instagram. Yeah, but I feel like even if I'm just talking about it, I'm still promoting it. So it feels like I'm just going to get banned. So I'm just kind of keeping that separate. Although I did make that the Angelssex account on Instagram where I'm kind of promoting, but still not putting any links. So yeah, we'll see how long that stays.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
It's been tough for us, so I can imagine what you all must go through.
And it's so unfair that like they censor ethical consenting folks from creating content, but then you start seeing between all the AI slop that's non-consensually using people's intimate material, and then all the child sexual abuse material that's out there, and they have the nerve to go after grown-up adult ethical creators, makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
You were saying about the purity culture. One of the things I noticed in the film is you're very intentional. I notice you have books in your hand. I noticed that God is not great one, and I was like, okay, they're sending a message, which I think is so dope. And the other one was like ethos and eros, and eros to me connected to like the idea of erotic and but I'm not sure exactly what it means. And then the other part of the subtitle was in a language I don't read, so like I wasn't sure what it was, but I'm like, I know that's got to be something. Can you talk a little bit about that, because I'm really intrigued, and I love that you have subtext additional like subtext inside of your films.
Yeah, that as well came just very naturally. Those are the books I have. Like I love reading and I collect all sorts of books, especially on sexuality, erotica, and stuff like that. So I just had those, but when we were using them to film, it did feel like they were just supposed to be there, if that makes sense. And especially in editing, when I'm looking at it and seeing like the kind of undertone message, it just very felt very right. But the Eros Sonetos one by Jason Stott, I didn't actually read it. It's in Spanish. My Spanish very bad at the moment, so yeah, I still have no idea exactly what it's about, but I'm sure it's a good book.
We noticed in your bio that y'all are about destigmatizing pleasure. And I'm like, that is exactly our thing. Hashtag destigmatize pleasure. What made y'all want to include or incorporate that activism into your artwork?
Yeah, so it just feels right, a right thing to do. I've noticed like 5 years ago when we started sex work, I had no idea the state of where our industry was. And in these 5 years, I've kind of learned about all these struggles we're going through, all of this stigma. Obviously, I knew there was stigma, I just didn't know how deep it went. So it just, with as time is passing, I feel more and more inclined to talk about these things and to kind of merge our content with the destigmatization, because I love the fact that people come to watch me because I'm a sexy woman, but they get educated. So yeah, I like that.
Yes.
That is really cool. Did you, as far as the church, do you mind sharing about like how you came up? Did you like, were you raised deeply in a deeply religious environment? Were you, and what was that like for you? We just got so many questions. We're super intrigued. And so like, you could tell we came prepared.
I love it. I loved it. I don't know if I was raised in a super religious, my household, not very religious, but the entire community and even like the entire that place of Europe, very very religious. Everything kind of how do I what word do I use not to like insult anyone. Everything's kind of impacted by religion. Every decision people make, every kind of social construct, everything comes from those kind of religious dogmatic beliefs. So my family wasn't very religious. They were like, I think the word is baptized, when you're born and you're instantly thrown into the, yeah. So we did all go through that and some other like sacraments. And my family is still kind of religious. They're just mostly just afraid to think about it, I guess. But I was never forced to go to church. I was never forced any things that like people go through. I didn't have to go through that. But yeah, I did have a subject in school called religion, and it was teaching us about just Christianity and basically just bashing other religions. So that was also kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. That
Yep.
sounds, unfortunately, very familiar to a lot of people's Christianity experiences. I know it's not all of them, but
Yeah.
that's very much our Christianity
Yeah,
experience.
the Jehovah's Witnesses have a book that's just enough about everybody else's religion so that you know how to like
Stay
counter
away.
them,
Yeah.
like push back against them a little bit. It's really wild.
But they never really genuinely legitimize any other
No,
faiths and all that.
no.
Yeah. Like ours is right. Everything else exists, but it's wrong.
Yes, it perfectly said. How did you ultimately like find your way? Like, are you a believer now? What is that like for you? How did you arrive at where you're at right now?
Yeah. I was very young when I started doubting that something's wrong. Just like how people around me that are religious, how they're behaving, they're not really being like Jesus-like as they were like supposed to. So I was like really curious, like why are all these priests abusing children? Why are we still going to church? Like this doesn't make sense. So at first I kind of denounced church, the institution, but I was still very much afraid and still believed in a God. But just with time, I read the Bible, I read some more, and then I guess I educated myself on this topic, and it just didn't make sense. I was very young when it happened too.
That's really cool. I'm always so impressed by people who like come to age of realization when they're young and then have the courage to follow through on it.
Yeah.
What was it like for you, like when you did that? Like, did you have to make sacrifices like friends or family or anything like that? Or I know you said your family wasn't necessarily deeply religious, but did it impact your relationships with family and friends when you made those choices?
Yeah, I felt very alienated, especially when you're young. You're supposed to be making friends, being like part of communities. I felt like I was very like different from everyone else, and even my family. They were not religious, but obviously it's like a big shame to the family to have an atheist child, and I was the atheist child. So that did feel very weird. But with time, my family just learned to love me, I guess, and they don't mind that I'm actually anti-religious now. I consider my like atheist, like anti-theist. Sorry, like I genuinely like love talking against religion at this point. Not even an atheist. So
I think
yeah.
it's real. I think that takes a lot of strength to be able to do that, considering how deeply pro-religion is entrenched in so many cultures. Just to be willing to speak out in a way that's like the antithesis of religion, being anti-religion, being atheist, all of those things is not easy.
Yeah, it is.
How did you like find like your community? How did you find people who are like-minded? Did you do anything for other people who are watching, who are like kind of maybe at the beginning points of figuring this type of thing out, where they feel outsiders and all of that? What kind of stuff did you do to find people who you felt connected with and shared a lot of like the same values as you, and saw something wrong and wanted to step out, but they don't necessarily have the support structure or that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I didn't have any kind of friendships when I was younger. I just didn't find a community back then. But then, as I grew older and the internet became, more internety, what is the word? More
Expansive.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the internet, like connected us
Yeah.
more. Yeah, I just online talking to people, realizing, oh, other cultures exist. Other people think the way I think. For example, I only recently, maybe a couple of years ago, found out that a lot of my values kind of fit in Satanism, for example. Like I read about Satanism and their values, and I was like, wow, that's exactly how I feel. So that was very like encouraging, and yeah, just keep being yourself. Don't like there will be pressure to fit in. There will be pressure because it feels comfortable, it feels cozy to be kind of in these communities with these people that are sharing a religion. It does feel good, I get that, but I feel like it's important to think outside of the box, and just keep thinking outside of the box. Just keep doing it, and your friends, your community, they'll find you.
I think that's
We
really,
found each other.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll let you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, so when did you become, I guess, anti-purity culture? Was that like all along, or is that recently when you all started to get into the adult space? Where did that come in your journey?
Yeah, I was never like really into the purity culture. It never made sense to me. I'm very like proud to say that I was never brainwashed. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I was always, when I was a kid, I remember people would like slut shame other girls and stuff, and I just never understood like what's going on. Where's the issue? If she enjoys sex, he enjoys sex. Like, where's the problem? And then as I got into sex work, so about 5 years ago, is when I actually realized how important it is to be anti-purity culture, to actually like speak against it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of happening gradually.
Is this similar? I mean, we've been anti-purity culture since we left the organization, but for us, it was similar in the, like, we kind of got into this to talk more about exploration and helping couples to overcome, like, the difficulties that come from purity culture. And we found that, like, kind of to what you're saying, you have to stand up for everything that they're trying to take away from us, all of our rights. Like, there's so much more involved than I think we realized was playing into how society thinks about all these subjects. So same here. That's why we kind of became activists too. It's like, it's hard not to if you give a shit about it and you give a shit about people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like since getting out of religion, it actually has made life so much better.
Yeah.
And then the more we talk about it and we call out all the bullshit around religion, around purity culture, it's just making it easier to connect with people who see the same issues, who have the same type of boldness, who have the same type of like strong convictions to be like, yo, this is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm either not going to do it or I'm going to actively work against it. I feel like the more vocal we are, the more good people we're connecting with.
Yeah.
And I feel like the whole thing has helped our relationship in a lot of ways. I think it helps on like the intimacy side and the sex side and the just enjoying life side.
Yeah.
With you, like creating content, creating your films and all that, what has been like your favorite part about that? Like as someone who's in a relationship creating, erotic content.
Can we just
Yeah.
ask another question before
Word.
that?
Sure.
Before that one, who's the one who said, "Hey, we should make spicy content"? And what was that conversation like? And then we can talk about your
No,
favorites.
I like your question. Let's go with your question.
Okay,
Okay, so
let's set the
first,
stage.
yeah. So to be honest, I don't remember. I feel like it was super mutual. We were just laying in bed. My husband was supposed to go for work. He used to work as not navy was the word, like an officer at ships. He would sail for months. It was very like draining job, and he hated it. I hated it. We all hated it. So one day we were laying in bed. He's supposed to leave in like 2 weeks, so we are already kind of depressed, preparing for the
I can
moment.
imagine.
Yeah. And one of us said, it feels like we said it at the same time, but probably not. One of us said, we should just travel, make love, and just live of it. And I was like,
I
or
love
he was
it.
like, yeah,
That's
that's
dope.
porn. We should do porn. And that's how it happened. Like,
That's so
That
funny.
is
I love
so
that.
cool. That is awesome. I mean,
It's always the plan B for us. We're always like, well, we could just do this, like.
even though I know it's not
Ruben's
so
like-
easy as simple.
No, I know.
but-
I'm not saying it's simple.
know,
I'm
yeah.
saying,
But yeah.
but
what
we
were you
do
gonna say?
talk about it similarly.
yeah.
You're gonna
You
say
never
something
know.
about
One
me,
day
let me
you
sit
might
back
just
and
be
listen.
like, you know what, new career over here.
It has been one that I thought about as like a I was gonna say a backdoor, but that's not the word.
A possibility.
Backup, yeah, a backup
Yeah.
possibility. Like I love the idea of it. I've always thought about the whole traveling the world on a dope ass sailboat. I don't know how to sail, but I love surfing and the warm weather. So I'm like, oh, we could travel around the Caribbean or someplace warm. And
That's what I'm watching you all's stories, and I'm like, y'all just traveling the world, making love. I'm like, so jealous.
I know, and they're skating too. I'm like, come on, y'all are doing the damn thing. You're being goals over there. We're watching, taking notes. We're like, okay, so it's possible. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's possible.
Yeah, we're definitely not traveling as much as I wish. We have a dog, so all the traveling we're doing with just driving through Europe. So it's less, fancy, less luxurious. It's just like a whole lot of driving. But yeah, we've been to France and Italy, and we're in Spain now, and we love Germany as well. So it's just Europe for now. But I do love the idea of sailing somewhere and like making videos on a boat. That would be nice. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
that's
how
dope.
I think about it. I have no idea how to even do it. Never even been on a sailboat, but it sounds and looks like it'd be really dope.
Yeah.
Who knows? I get on one and be like, I can't do this. Seasick the whole time. But it would be an adventure. It would be fun. What has been your favorite spot to land in so far?
What do you mean by landing?
To be in like what
Of
is
your
the spot-
travels.
yeah, and what's the best spot like that's sex positive and that's like that nurtures like
Yeah.
your like kind of erotic energies and nurtures your intimate relationship like
Yeah.
just as a couple
I
and
like that.
creators.
Yeah, I like that question as well. I feel like Germany is very sex positive. Although we've never lived there, but we did spend quite some time in Munich, and we love it there. I heard Berlin as well is just like a good place to be for adult creators. And for us, it did feel very sex positive. Everywhere you go, you just feel comfortable. No one's, there's sex clubs and stuff like that. But for us, some place that we like spending a lot of time now, obviously in Spain, and it's already so much better than like the eastern parts of Europe. So yeah, I love Spain. Yeah, I just love Spain.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I hear so many good things about Barcelona and I think Catalonia.
Catalonia, yeah, that's like
yeah.
the province where Barcelona is located. Yeah, I love
Oh,
it.
it
My
is. See,
favorite.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. You see my ignorance on it.
No, yeah.
That's very cool. What about it makes it so sex positive for you? What makes the atmosphere such a enjoyable place to be.
Yeah, I think for us, it's just the contrast, like where we come from, which is super sex negative, super, purity culture, religious, background. So I think it's just because of that. I feel like if like a German person came here, it would be less sex positive. But to us, it's just like a new energy to harvest, and I feel like it's just because of where we come from. Yeah.
That's really cool. Have you, with everything that's going on with like censorship on the internet, how is that affecting you? If it is, how is that affecting you in the work that you're doing? Like, are you noticing what kind of affects you noticing across the board? If you don't mind speaking on that.
Yeah, I love speaking about it actually, but I haven't had like super negative experiences. I've seen other adult workers have terrible censorships, getting their accounts deleted and stuff like that. I luckily haven't had that happen to me, but I have noticed like whenever I share a photo of someone, and for example, they have like what AI algorithm that checks these things consider a bra, for example, that for a couple of days I'm kind of shadow banned and stuff like that. I do like see a lot of that, and I'm just generally not comfortable up talking about my work online, and that is the work of censorship. Like it's engraved itself in my mind that I'm just like refusing to even talk about my work to not get censored. So it literally means they're like what they want to achieve is working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that whole quieting effect that they talk about. And that's exactly like you said, that's exactly what they've been wanting. How can your fans support you through this? What kind of things would you like them to know, or what kind of things can they actively be doing to help you specifically and creators like you?
Yeah, so I think just liking, sharing, commenting, keeping our posts visible, feeding the algorithm in that way, just making us relevant is important. But also on the other side, what is important is to follow the guidelines on Instagram. For example, I don't receive DMs; I have that blocked off. But I do know my colleagues and people I talk to, they receive all kinds of DMs, people asking them to sell content, for example, on Instagram, which is literally not allowed. Like you should not be asking that depend on this work. We have to have our accounts, and that's putting us in danger. So when you're talking to your creators, you're not supposed to be mentioning meetups, selling stuff, any sexual kind of. Yeah, so I think just follow the guidelines and like, share, and comment on our stuff. Yeah.
And so how do people normally find you? Like if you're struggling to promote yourself like on Instagram and like the bigger social networks, how do people come upon you on their own? Is it
Yeah.
like, are you being found like through Pornhub, the larger platform that you're on, or is there other ways people are finding you?
Yeah, I believe it's all Pornhub. We managed to grow a pretty large following. We're gonna hit 150,000 followers tomorrow, I believe. So
That
that's
is
nice. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you
Congratulations.
so much. I'm very proud of it. Yeah. But I think
You
that's the
should be. That's a lot
only.
of people.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
That's a city. Like that's a whole city's worth of
It
people.
is.
That
Yeah.
is dope.
Yeah.
That's not easy, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So that's our
Sorry, I cut
only
you
way.
off.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean,
That's your
that's it. That's our only platform that I have that is like a big platform. I don't have a large Instagram. I don't have a large Twitter. I guess it's called X now. So yeah. Yeah. I'm not very good at marketing, to be honest.
And where can people purchase your work anywhere and actually download it, or is it just the free content that is available?
I think on OnlyFans they're allowed to download it. I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, we do have OnlyFans, and all of our content is either free there or available for sale. Very very little content is pay-per-view, so it's mostly free on our OnlyFans. Mostly free content, and we also have many vids where you can buy videos and you can download them and stuff like that. But yeah, we have so much free content. I think people don't even bother to go to these paid sites, to be honest.
I think the free content is great for like testing it, see if it's something you like. But we're the type of, we're like, we want to buy it, we want to download it, we want to put it in our library for later.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's just nice because we could watch it on the big screen, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like watching it. There's something about watching it on the TV and having it come out to speakers, and also buying it and knowing that you got it, and like you don't got to worry about internet connectivity and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Government coming for it all someday.
Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm definitely a big advocate for purchasing the porn, paying for it, and just buying it from reputable places. I'm a big fan of that. Because
Yeah.
but maybe
Agreed.
I'm old school too. I'm probably showing my age a little bit, but I'm a
I
fan
think
of
we
it.
just we like to experience it differently. That's all.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is probably the majority of people, but I think there definitely are people like us.
Yeah, I
that will
hope
pay
so.
to
I
download
really
it.
hope so. It is music to my ears because it's important to support the creators. And as you said, you get to have this product on your, I don't know, hard drive or something, and it's kind of yours forever. So that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I prefer it. I think it works out well. I lost my thought of what I was going to ask next.
I was going to ask, what has the experience been like for you all together? Like the creating, has it been like mostly fun, enjoyable? Has there been like unexpected challenges?
Yeah, we
How was it?
definitely have challenges. Yeah, we've reached the burnout point a lot of time in our work because when you're making adult content, you're often repeating scenes, you're repeating stuff because there's not much to it unless you're gonna act, which we didn't do for a long time in our career. So we did reach those points when we were kind of struggling and it was very difficult, like a typical burnout. You reach it when you're a writer, you do it when you're a photographer, you go through it as in many I'm sure you too.
Designer,
Yeah, yeah.
developer. I
Any
totally feel
creative,
you there.
yeah, any
Yeah.
creative, yeah. So we did have those, but we generally, is that the word? Yeah, we generally enjoy working together. It's just fun, and I'm sure you two can understand the bond you have with someone that you are literally like creating this piece of art that's making you money and sustaining your life. It's just like this whole experience.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it's
awesome.
really cool. I can see the films you create. I can see y'all's bond, and it feels really cool to see that, like your appreciation for one another, just the little things. That's why I really appreciate what y'all are doing, and I'm sure I would imagine, I can't speak for the audience, but I would imagine there's plenty of your audience is probably thinking the exact same thing. Like they really appreciate the bond that y'all have with each other, and are there ways that it's helped make you closer as like a couple or anything like that?
To be honest, I don't know because we've been doing this almost our entire relationship. So I have no idea how it would have turned out if we didn't do sex work. But I'm pretty glad we are doing it. It just feels very natural, very organic to us. And as you said, our like community and people that watch our content are constantly telling the exact same thing, that they can literally like feel our bond. So I think that's our like strong suit. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, how else can you get to work together all the time? You get to be together all the time. He doesn't have to do those long sea voyages, you know what I mean, where you don't see each other for long, extensive periods of time. It just feels like a really smart way of saying we're going to do something different. If we have to be in a capitalist system, let's do something different. Let's break those other rules, and I think it's dope that y'all are doing that.
Art, I just thought of a funny question because I was thinking like if we were doing that all the time, I think Reuben would pull a camera out like every single time that we're being intimate. Does that happen for y'all? Are you like, first, I guess there's two questions here. Do you desire to be intimate when you're not working, or is this like we're working, so we're doing it already all the time? And then if and when you're doing it for non-work, is anybody like, we need to get the camera out, we need to do this?
No, we did do that. When we first started, we would start to have sex and then we would be like, let's just film it. It's like easier, you know? But
Yep.
now it's a bit more like professional, but still very amateur. Now we actually like plan our shoots. So it's still kind of authentic, obviously, but it's more of a performance than it was when we first started. We're kind of trying
Yeah.
to find a balance between a performance and kind of, what is the word? casual, not casual. Yeah, sorry, I can't find the word. But yeah, we're trying to balance it out. Yeah.
Oh, that. Okay, I can definitely see how it could be like that. Like, now, has it had an effect on how it? I don't want to cross any bounds. Has it had? And if I am, please just tell
I
me,
know,
cut me
don't
off.
worry.
It's no problem. Has it had an effect on when y'all are together outside of filming? Like, because you film so much, like anything that like where you find the
Don't touch me.
yeah,
We
or
just did
find
it
like the
yesterday.
approach to like, because you do it one way when you're doing it for work, and
Yeah,
another
yeah.
way when you're together. Has the work stuff somehow start to influence when you're together not working, and what do you do to counteract that?
Yeah. We don't film that much, so we only film maybe once or twice a week, sometimes even like a couple of times a month. So I don't think we film as much to kind of mess up our actual, connection. But
That's
yeah, I
awesome.
feel also our sex is so much better when we're not filming. It's impossible to film as the authentic, as soon as you get the camera out, it's kind of like we are human. We start performing. It's really natural,
Yep.
and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with performance. It's an art form. It's entertainment. Yeah. So I feel like, yeah, when we're filming, it's more kind of performing, but when we are having sex without the camera, it's more kind of raw. We're not thinking about the angles, and yeah, although I do wish we could film that. That would be such a good video.
Yeah, like we would somebody. Oh, you should speak to Aaron Lawrence. We just interviewed. He is an intimate photographer. And he actually films like real couples having real sex. And he was saying how his job is basically to become the fly on the wall, so they can do his best job to capture the real sex.
Yeah.
Like I was like, man, we all need that.
Yeah, that would be
But that
really
would be
cool.
still super hard not to be like semi-performative.
Yes,
But
exactly. Like
yeah.
it needs to be like a hidden camera situation, or it's yeah, yeah.
And then you forget about it, leave it there for a while, long enough where you just forget it's there, and then next thing you know, you go back, you discover your own footage,
Well,
and you're
that's
like,
what
oh,
he was
that was
saying.
really
Sometimes
cool.
he has to step out of the room, let people get into it first, and then you start hearing little noises and moans, and then come in really quietly.
He was joking because one time he was doing it and he tripped over something and he fell or something, and it totally threw off
Yeah.
everything, and everyone's like, he's like, oh, I can't do, like, this isn't like regular, you can't say cut recut, like
Yeah,
it
I
is
can
what it is. You
imagine.
try
Yeah.
to which is funny. It's wild. um who is the filmmaker? Are you both like, because we noticed on the credits it says something like everything is both of you,
Mm.
directing, filming, editing, and all of that. Like, who started with the filmmaking side, or is it something where you both literally started together and you both got your skills up, or does one of you do, say, the editing, one does the directing and writing, or like, how can you talk a little bit about like the technical stuff, like how it works? I won't go too hard on that because I know I'm gonna take the fun and spice out. I'm just curious because
No,
it's
no,
something I've
it's
been
good.
getting
Yeah.
into and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I love that question as well. Basically, there's no much writing going on. We kind of just, for these Halloween videos, I guess there was an idea brewing for a couple of weeks, so there was some thinking about it, but we don't actually write anything down. We just kind of talk about it, and then we remember what we talked about, and then we just kind of film it, and it flows. And while we're filming, if we think of something else, we just do it, and it's all very natural and very yeah, just comes together perfectly. And and he does the video, like the actual filming and all of those settings. I'm not really into it. Also, I have like these long nails. I always mess up the settings, so he always have to go back and fix it. Yeah, he does the filming. And obviously, yeah, so we do. I feel like when I'm crediting those movies, I just put Angelssex because we're kind of half on it, so it's just like
Yeah.
makes sense. But he also does editing, so you're now probably wondering, what do I do? Because if he's
No,
filming,
I believe me, I know it's a lot.
He's curious
I'm
because he's
curious
into the
because I'm
film
into
side
all
too.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm learning editing and videography and all of that, and y'all know your stuff, and I notice all the little things. I notice the sound design. I notice like the lighting stuff. I notice how you set the stage and your set, whatever that is, and so like I'm paying attention to all the little fine details, and I'm just very much a student of it as well as like enjoy it as like a member of like the audience as well.
Yeah, me as well. I feel like we're on the same. You probably see me as much more experienced, but I'm really not. I'm still learning. I feel like I'm level one. But yeah, so basically he films and he edits the long form for our spicy pages, because all of these films that you guys watch, the short movies, they're derived from our regular footage. So there's like a whole long version of it, so much more like actual sex and stuff. But I do the short form editing, so I edit the actual short films that we make, the 3-4 minute ones. And I also do the trailers, the short ones. He does the big ones, because there's so many versions of these videos, so many trailers. I also do like the Instagram trailers, or everything that has to do with the short film. That's me. And the long footage for our Pornhub, which is how we make money. We don't make money out of short films, so someone has to do this as well. That's my husband. Yeah.
Oh, that is really dope. So we could, and I can envision the future where we're both editing, because it's really cool, because we've seen the shorts. You've done a great job with those. We have one of the long ones, but we haven't seen it yet. But we're looking forward to it. So that'll be Duma's work. That is so dope. What do you edit with? Do you edit with the same software? Like you do like Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, Premiere? Like what do you edit for? So I'm going way too far.
No,
into
I
the
like.
technical weeds. I gotta
I don't
stop.
mind
I'm
it.
sorry.
I don't mind it. To answer your question, he uses Vegas Pro. I don't.
Oh, okay.
It's too complicated for me. Maybe in the future. I just use CapCut, and I literally edit it on my iPad. This like smallest iPad Air for 2020, like so small, and I edit the whole film on this.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. But that's just it. You got talent. You can like they say, like true artists and people who have mastered a craft can use almost any tool to do something great because they understand what they're doing. The tools are tools. Sometimes we put way too much put too
Yeah.
much focus on the tool instead of the execution of the craft. And clearly you know how to execute on the craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say to that point, to technical, uh, do you have advice for other couples that want to maybe get into making content together?
What advice could I give?
What did you wish you knew when you started that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know now?
Oh, so much. So I guess what I wish I knew when we started, this is kind of going to sound too businessy, but I think it's important to like register your business properly, so that you have all of your income kind of in the bank. And in the future, if you're doing something like, for example, we were getting a mortgage, and I couldn't use our first 3 years of work, because it wasn't properly registered. So I guess that's important, like properly register it, get the
Yeah.
proper taxes, like pay all your stuff, because it's gonna matter in the later when you actually wanna do something with your employment. But
Oh,
let's
that's
let's
great
get back
advice.
to the creative stuff.
Lay it on us. Lay it on us.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that though, because that is important too.
Yeah. Just it is a business, and you need to remember it, to treat it like a business, because if you
Yep.
don't, it's just gonna kind of fizzle out. But what else? I guess just like nurture your creativity as an individual and as a couple. It's important to kind of find your language and maintain it, because as people, I mean, we're all like individuals. Even when you're a couple, it's two people, so it's very easy to kind of float in different directions. So I feel like it's important, if you're gonna create content together, that you kind of make sure that your relationship is in a good place, that you're working on it, that you're working on yourself as individuals and stuff like that, because it will reflect in your content, it will reflect in your creativity, and it will make or break your career at the end.
What do you do to nurture your relationship in that way? Like, what are the ways you both, as a couple and as individuals, do things to make sure that like you're keeping that tight bond, and so that that shows versus the inverse, like you were saying?
Yeah, I think we just have a tight bond to be like to at to start with. But then again, we are also constantly like checking in with each other, making sure like everything's, you know, good with our mental health and stuff like that. We are trying to communicate as best as we can. And I mean, we have our struggles, like obviously every couple that, but I feel like it's important to work on them instead of like sweeping them under the rug, if that makes sense. And you know, just be present in your relationship, check in with your partner, see what they need, tell them what you need, and kind of, you know, just be best friends. I feel like being best friends is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead. I
no.
was just gonna say I can relate to that side of things too, where like I think this work has actually brought us closer and helped us to maybe like I don't get. I guess disagreements aren't as long because
Yeah.
we're like constantly trying to mend, but also like for work, we don't want to show up to a podcast after we just had a fight and we're like, like,
Yeah.
like I don't ever want. I'm like I don't want ever want the audience to feel our tension. I don't want ever want anybody to feel like just anything bad between us. So it forces me too to be like swallow my pride and deal with
Big
my
things.
shit,
Yeah.
like get it out of the way. And in that way, it's been so good, you know?
Yeah, or to be faking it either. Like
Yeah.
that's like I know it's been a big thing with us.
I
Like
mean, and everybody's, I mean, like you said, all couples have their shit and it sneaks up on you in the worst times.
It really does.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So for example, today I was crying for like 4 hours because yesterday was a really big day for us. We got a mortgage approved, like super big celebration, and I was like hoping to have at least one day of being happy and content with what I've achieved. But today, like a shit ton of new struggles with this whole mortgage thing. So I was like, oh my fucking god! And then I look at my Spanish book and realize I have so much to learn. And then I look at this little iPad and realize I have a whole film to edit, and I just break down and I cry for 4 hours, and then I'm like wipe my tears, and here I am having an interview.
we appreciate you were so willing to
Yeah.
to meet with us today. So thank you for that. I'm sorry for what you've gone
No,
through.
I
We're
appreciate you
so proud
having
of
me
y'all
here.
for your
Yeah.
house and everything. No, that is really awesome.
Thanks so much. I'm really happy you guys invited me, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to, you know, speak about our job. And this feels funny to say, but it's important to humanize sex workers, which feels super weird. Of course, we're human, but I guess not everyone knows that. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
important to like come out and be like, hey, I exist too, and I'm just like you. Yeah.
I think I absolutely agree with you. That's why I love asking all the questions because, especially because I have found the folks who are sex workers that we have, you know, built relationships with in our network and that we know just, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. Like
Personally,
when you don't know.
professionally.
Casually?
Yeah, casually and professionally, yeah. And folks we don't necessarily know really well, like I notice a commonality between all of them. Like there's so much life experience and there's so many different like varied experiences. It's like the sexuality part is yes, that's great and that's one aspect. But there's like all these other aspects. It's like I want to know all those different things. And then obviously with the whole tech background, I'm always super intrigued by all the technical stuff. I gotta like pump the brakes a lot of times because sometimes I go too hard in that direction, and people are like, "Yo, this is not a tech podcast. This conversation is supposed to be about like culture and sex and liberation. Like we don't care about the cameras." But I'm like, I care about the camera. What lens are you using? What's the ISO on that? Like I care about the cameras. So with that being said, what kind of camera do y'all shoot with? I'm sorry, I had to go
No,
there.
I do love it. Like you're saying all of these like problematic things you're experiencing. I'm like, yeah, that's normal. Of course you're gonna ask that. Yeah, yeah, I'm like that as well. Although I don't have any tech background or anything, I'm still curious to see like what equipments are people using, what mics and stuff. So we are shooting on a Canon, and it is called Mark II M50, I believe. Yeah, Mark II
Okay. Oh,
M50.
very cool.
Yeah, it's not like a good camera. It's a very beginnerish. We got it like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, so we should definitely upgrade it. We were first started filming on an iPhone, and I feel like it was better, to be honest.
Yeah, they say some great things. Like I've seen that all the time. Like what they've put in the small, relatively speaking, a small little phone is a really good
Yeah.
camera and video camera and all of that. What do you shoot in, like, what do you call it? Are you shooting, like, do you know what size lens you're shooting in, or do you change lenses and all that? I'm just curious from my own self. I got you here on the conversation. I'm gonna ask you questions I care about too. That is just, maybe nobody cares, but I care, so I'm gonna ask you.
I think we have two lenses. One is 11 millimeters. It's for like a wide angle, I believe, and the other one is just the general you get with all cameras, like 35 millimeters, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So that's awesome, because I like wide angle lenses. So
Yeah,
that,
there was,
I'm just like, I'm learning from everything that you're saying, like,
yeah,
and how you're shooting it.
yeah.
Do you use like ND filters or black mist filters or anything like that
I don't
kind of
think
thing?
so. I never heard of it. I don't know what it is, so I assume we're not using it. But I want to say, when you said you love wide angle lenses, I do as well, awesome. But my only like problem with it makes everything so much darker, and like I wish they found a way to balance those two things, like to have a wide angle and some visibility. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean with that. I like, ours is 16 millimeter, but we don't have a full frame camera. So I think and again, I'm not super knowledgeable about everything, but I know like the equivalent of it when you change it to like a super 35 millimeter chip. It's like, I think 24 millimeters, so it's not super wide, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We got one that's like the aperture is really large to help with the brightness because of that.
Yeah.
I think it's like 1.4 millimeter, but I mean, what, not 1.4. See, now I'm showing my brand newness in some ways. I mean, I'm not brand new, but I'm not y'all. But let me switch gears, because I know I'm going way heavy on the tech. I love that, like, when I see your content, like I think it was the Intruder one where Duma's wearing the mask. I'll just say that one because I can't remember the actual name. I love that it feels like the memes that are popular for Halloween, and y'all took and brought the memes to life. like because Sherri's always showing me all the sexy memes, all the Halloween memes, and it's like y'all took that one step further and you brought it to life. Is like, how do you get inspiration for the type of stuff that you're filming and shooting?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Like, how do you go from like what is your process? Maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, I like that. So I think you're talking about The Visitor, the one with,
Yes, the
Yeah,
visitor.
yeah.
That's the one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is embarrassing, but I'm gonna say it. I love being honest. We actually got the inspiration from, the AI trend that was going around. People were putting their photos to the AI generator. They would be like laying on the bed, talking on the phone, and
The
the
Scream, is it from?
scream, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
Scream
yeah, it
inspired
would
one.
be like
Yeah.
somewhere in the background, and I was like, maybe we should like recreate this, but with actual mask and stuff. And I think it was Duma that said, maybe we can do both your photo shoot, because I wanted to do a photo shoot. Maybe we can do also a video. So that's actually how we filmed The Visitor. It was very just like a fast thing to happen.
That's really cool. I can feel the Scream influence in both of y'all's portrayals of those characters too. Like, you brought the playfulness into the scene, and I really appreciate it. Y'all did a great job, especially toward the end when Duma gets up in the camera and he does all the head moves, and then he gets to the top of the frame and turns his head sideways. And he's just got, and then the way you have the title go over the frame and over his, it just looks so good. You
Yeah.
did such a good job. Like,
I
it
agree.
worked
Yeah,
really
I
well.
rarely like say positive things about my work, but I agree. Like the scene where he does that looks very nice, and yeah, I think he was honestly just like checking how things are looking, and
It worked.
It
That's so
worked
cool.
really well. It looked like he
It
was
looked
doing,
very intentional.
Yeah, it looked like he's doing that final thing. Let me just hit this like
yeah,
scene hard,
yeah.
and like the way he's looking, it worked
Yeah.
so good. It felt like y'all must be horror movie film
Fans.
fans, because it felt it. I could feel it in there. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Are you horror movie fans? Like are y'all into, like, what are you into? Are you into horror movies? Are you like Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think Duyma loves horror movies. I don't. I get really, really scared. We went to a haunted house experience in Barcelona, and my brain couldn't differentiate reality from what is like fake. So I was genuinely scared as if it was real. So I don't like horror movies, but I do like weird, eerie stuff, if that makes sense. I like thrillers and like dramatic stuff, and just like things that are a bit weird and you're not sure what's going on and stuff like that. Like I don't like jump scares. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
don't
you
usually, I
there.
don't typically scream at them anymore, but we were just watching Derry on the series on HBO, and when he reached out of the water, I just literally screamed. I was like, I'm such a baby. What the hell was that?
It's like these damn jump scares. Why do they keep
Yeah.
doing this to us? Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, what other influences do you bring into your films? What else? What else like influences and gives you like sparks your creativity for films?
Yeah. So obviously we are a bit kind of weird. We are part of the alternative like culture, just like not really fitting into the society. So we
Which is what makes y'all so cool, though.
Yeah,
You know what I
I,
mean? Makes
I
y'all
think
like
so. Yeah,
really cool.
yeah, and it's very like natural from us. It's like not a very something intentional we do. It's just like who we are. So we try to bring that into our movies as well. So usually when we are filming, like we have these like niches. Is it that a word, like a niche or a niche? Yeah, we're trying to kind of. So I love wearing long nails. Duma loves seeing no long nails. Therefore, we have like this mutual fetish. There,
That's us.
yeah, yeah. So we make these nailed episodes. They are videos focused on my nails. Then again, I love wearing high heels. He loves looking at high heels. Oh, a nice
Us again.
yeah, exactly. That's so like organic, and that's a great way to make content, in my opinion, because it doesn't feel like you're constantly like fabricating stuff. Especially because I'm not very creative. Like to be honest with you, I'm not like one of those people that can like draw things and be like everywhere. Like that's so cool to me. I'm just not like that. Like I get bursts of creation and then it dies off, and I have to wait a couple of weeks for it to kind of come back to life. So for me, it's important that what I'm filming has something to do with who I am. So that way I don't have to constantly keep fabricating things. So yeah, that's how we kind of base our things, just on how we look, what things we have around the house, the books we have, the like masks we have, the outfits we have, and then we kind of just go from there.
That
That's
is
very cool.
awesome. That's encouraging. Like basically, it sounds like the way I'm hearing what you're saying is you just lean into who you are and you
And
find
what
ways of
turned
bringing
you
it.
on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
that's very cool. I mean, I kind of what we're doing right now.
What do you mean?
Bringing in the tech stuff, and you're like, no, Reuben, stop that. You're like, that's
Tech is
not what
no,
she
no,
said.
no, no,
You're
no.
like, that's not what she said at all.
Traditional tech. I mean, we're in tech, so that's good.
But the alternative, I definitely feel you there. That is really cool. I feel like so much of the content we watch is somehow does not necessarily fit the mainstream.
Yeah.
In one way or another, it is people who have carved out their own lane because that lane was not being represented in the mainstream or treated with respect or celebrated or something like that. I think that's why the internet is so powerful versus like back in the day before there was so much online. It's like the big studio houses or the people who ran network TV or big Hollywood studios got to dictate what we got to enjoy, and they had such a narrow perspective of
Yeah.
what was worth putting on tape that now it's like, I hate using the phrase democratizing, media, but I feel like in this way it has it. And it's like y'all getting to like fill a void and fill a need for so many people that maybe 25, 30 years ago just would not have happened unless some big studio exec, decided, oh, I agree with that. You don't need a big studio exec to
Yeah.
agree with anything. You just create what you create and your fans love it.
100
And
something thousand people agree.
exactly. Studio
And are
execs don't know
paying
everything.
your living, so that's like
Word. You've
give
already
a
proven
space
it.
for other people who don't feel like they fit in.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
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 There they're encouraging me. I'm thinking about it even more and more.
I love this. Yeah, that's like music to my ears. To be honest, I love like yeah, that's awesome. And I love everything you said about how it was used to be dictated very much about the media, and now we have this opportunity to make our own content and like bring anything we want to the internet. That's why I love this era of like OnlyFans, Fansly, Manyvids, all these platforms that give the power to creators. I love that so much. It's so important.
Would Do you have a favorite platform that you think is doing it the best and is the best platform for creators?
No, there is none. There is none. Like every platform is definitely having troubles and is always missing something. For example, OnlyFans, they're taking 20% just like for existing. They don't have any kind of discovery page. You can't search for people on OnlyFans. It's not a good way to yeah. Also, they have all these rules. You can't post certain types of content because they think it's icky. So really weird. Yeah. Fansly as well, like, they're like not doing I feel like they're not doing great marketing, so their platform is not growing as much as they could. Pornhub has a ton of technical issues. You're gonna struggle with how do I say this? You're gonna struggle with looking at your performance. The stats, they're never accurate. It's very difficult to actually know how much you're growing and stuff like that. So, and especially Manyvids lately, I don't know if you guys seen what is happening. They're going from not safe for work content, which literally build the page, to kind of slowly going to safe for work plus AI content, which is ridiculous. This is the first time I'm experiencing slowly like deplatforming from a platform that's literally meant for sex workers. This is very weird
It
experience.
makes no sense. I remember when OnlyFans was trying to go that direction. It's like literally sex workers built your platform from obscurity because nobody was messing with them until sex workers decided to make them relevant. I mean, many vids the same way. What is the one that I think AT&T or Verizon or somebody built? Tumblr. They got big because of sexuality on their platform, and then after they got bought by whoever bought them, they did the same damn thing. And now, like, who's on Tumblr? It's not
Yeah.
relevant in the way that it was. It is really disappointing to say the
Yeah.
least.
Oh, am I cutting you off?
No.
I was going to say, you mentioned the AI thing. How are y'all feeling about AI porn and its future,
Yeah, I think
and the future of creators like yourselves?
Yeah, I think it could maybe still, but could have been a nice thing. We could have nice times with it. We could have used it in a way that all makes sense. But as per usual, we humans found a way to use it in the most terrible way possible by sexualizing people who are not consenting to it, like actresses and politicians and people like that, like female. Obviously, no one's sexualizing male politicians. Of course, we're just doing it to the females. But
Yep.
yeah, we found like these disturbing ways to use AI, and we're like, yeah, I'm not really a fan of it. Although I do see like the possibilities of AI, the like good, I
Yeah.
perceive to be good possibility, and I think we could have had so much fun if we gave the power to creators. For example, I would love if I could make like generate content of myself sometimes, like, but I would make it obvious that it's AI, like something fun, something my body maybe cannot do, some kind of flexibility thing or something weird. I also love like I would like to make content where I have like 6 tits or like 4 hands and like weird stuff. That would be so cool, and I'm sure there's a market for it as well. People love like weird
Of
things.
course.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that in that way we could have used AI in such a wholesome way. I just talked about having 6 boobs and I'm feeling wholesome. But yeah, it's per usual. We humans found the worst way to use it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks strongly to it too. Is like, I think it's one of the problems when either fascism gets a hold of something or capitalism gets a hold of something.
Yeah. I was
Because
going to say capitalism, but then I'm like, well, I don't know which is worse. They're both evil.
Yeah.
because like you said, like you could have these like wholesome approaches where it's not stealing people's autonomy, non-consensually,
Ethical, like-
harming
Yeah.
people and all of that. But yeah,
Outside of its impact on the planet, but that's a whole nother
and all-
topic.
yeah, the environment and that kind of
Yeah.
thing too. But I mean,
But I agree.
That would be less so if we didn't
Yeah,
have capitalism
true.
because they would
And it was regulated and- Yeah, all of that.
and then how it was obviously mined, the underlying minerals and everything.
Yeah.
But if y'all want to know, if the audience wants to know about AI, you seriously got additional questions. There's some great info out there. 404 Media, Electronic Frontier Foundation, and Mozilla's got some good information, among a lot of other things. Um,
Awesome.
I don't want to like derail us again.
Yeah, I got another question.
Absolutely.
So I saw that on Blue Sky, you're opening up to the possibility of collaborations now.
We are.
Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
thank you for reminding me that I have a Blue Sky account. I genuinely forgot about it. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out later. We do have a forum. It's both on X and Blue Sky, I believe, where other established creators can apply and possibly enjoy a collaboration with us. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
very
cool.
cool.
What are you looking for or hoping for?
Well, we're hoping for like genuine connection. I have trouble connecting with people in just like a sexual way. So I have to be at least friends with people that I film with, just to make it more enjoyable, you know. Maybe later in our life and our careers, if I open up to like these casual sex situations, maybe I can film with just like any creator. But right now I would just like to like be friends with other creators, and then maybe we can make content together. I like the idea of that.
Do you know what you kind of like things you're looking for in people or traits that make it so that you feel like, okay, this particular person might be a good fit or a good connection? And what are you open to sharing, like what kind of people you're looking for? Are you looking for connection to collaborate with specific genders or specific locations, people in specific geographic locations or that kind of thing?
Yeah, all genders and non-genders are welcome. We are not like looking into that anything specific, but I guess people that I would like be friends with or at least have some kind of connection are people that are they love to question things. They love to like think about how they were raised and how they're living their lives now, and people that are kind of being themselves, whatever that might be. Obviously I'm not going to look someone exactly like me, that would be weird. I just like feel like I want to be around people that are helping me grow, and people that I can see are growing themselves, and just like stuff like that. People that are honest with themselves, looking deeper into things, and yeah, just being themselves.
What kind of content are you? Do you have any content? I got two questions and they're not related. I'm not sure which one to ask first because I want to ask them both. I'm gonna ask. Well, I'm gonna put it out there, then I'll ask one of them first. So one I'm curious about is like, is there a specific type of content or like themed film that you haven't made that you really want to make that like you got in the back of your mind? If you don't want to share because you don't want someone to take your idea, totally get it, just say that. And on the other side, with filming with other folks, one thing that we're curious about is like, how do you like deal with stuff like jealousy? And I know like a lot of folks in the audience, that's a super common question. Do you deal with stuff like jealousy? And then like, if you do or don't, like, what does that look like for you? How do you manage those feelings?
Yeah. So let me answer the first question first, but please do remember to ask me the second one because I will forget. So yeah,
Okay.
basically, I do have one idea that I would love to shoot. I would love to shoot a video in a museum, if that would be possible. Like if some museum would be interested in giving us their location to shoot a video. I just have some nice ideas about like a museum themed video. So yeah, that's something I would love to shoot. And yeah, just like I would like to shoot videos in like big like skyscrapers when you can see like the whole city through the window.
That would
Yeah,
be
I've
dope.
never experienced that. We don't have such big not windows, such big buildings here in Europe. So I've never experienced that kind of when you can see the whole city and the night lights and stuff like that. I want to do videos like that, but that's in the background and stuff like that.
We've stayed in the, I'm smiling because that is super cool, and that's one of the things we've talked a lot about. And one of the places we stayed at with the big windows, and that was our plan, was to shoot like you could see the bed and then past the bed and see outside the glass and everything and see all the other buildings out there. That is one of the things that we love the idea of doing something like that. So we're like right there with you. I totally feel you on that. How do you deal with stuff with going back to the other question,
The jealousy.
shooting with new people? Yeah, the jealousy and like do either y'all like struggle with that at all or have challenges with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I know on our side, we've both had our different challenges in that area, and I can imagine if, when you go to make that choice, it probably brings up stuff you got to work through. And like, what does that look like for you, if you don't mind me
Yeah,
asking?
yeah.
And then like, what type of stuff do you do and tools do you use to work through
Yeah,
it?
so I definitely don't mind you asking. My husband, super secure, doesn't have any issues with it. He's looking forward to it. I, however, have issues with this. I was in a very toxic relationship before this one, and I've experienced a lot of trauma and a lot of things that changed me. So I did struggle with the idea of like bringing other people into our relationship, like for the first year of our relationship. But as we connected and our love grew for each other and stuff like that, I got very like secure, much more secure than before, and it just feels good to know that my partner is experiencing other connections and other pleasures. I don't feel like I need to be the sole subject of his desires. It just feels I don't want to like keep things from him, keep him from experiencing other things. It just feels wrong. We have this one life. I want him to be the happiest and healthiest version of himself. And I feel like being sexually open and like welcoming other people into our relationship is like a way to go. It feels kind of right. I don't know.
How did you do anything in particular to like arrive at that point that helped you kind of get to that area? And I know we're all different too. I know everybody's built different and all of that. I'm just curious
Sounds a
because
lot like having a secure relationship and a partner who's been very supportive has been a big part of
Yeah,
it.
that was like 90%, maybe 50%. Yeah, let's do 50. But the other 50 is just working on yourself, like constantly seeing like what triggers you, why it triggers you, how did you get to this point where you're uncomfortable, like seeing your partner just see a person. Because I know like there's people out there that are uncomfortable when their partner like scrolls and sees a photo of a person on Instagram and stuff like that. And I understand where it comes from. I'm not like judgmental in that sense, but I think it is important to kind of, if it's happening to you as a woman, to think like, why is this like this? Where does it come from? What part of me does it trigger? I feel like it's just important to kind of feel secure in this way, because if you don't, nothing's gonna like you're always gonna struggle with these things. You're not gonna have as a fulfilling relationship as you could if you just kind of found the security within yourself. So for me personally, it was just work on myself, find out what it is that it's making me like upset about these things, that by the way never felt natural. Like every time I would feel upset, I could feel that that's not me, that it's something in my mind kind of created, not very natural. I always felt very open sexually and very inviting and everything, like super positive about that stuff. And when I had these little moments of insecurity, it never felt authentic. It always felt like something I need to deal with, and then I just did.
I appreciate the way that you frame that too, because of like, I know like the way we've heard it shared on other podcasts and stuff, it's often like, oh, you should just not be bothered, or this shouldn't
Jealousy
be.
is just a feeling.
Yeah, like
Let it go. It will go away. Like, do
exactly.
you know what my body is doing right
Yeah.
now?
Exactly. And I like how you let off. You're like, I'm not judging anybody. This is what my
Yeah.
experience. Like, I just appreciate the empathy
Of
that
course.
you have and like the way you framed that. I think that's really important because I know it's not like a easy
It
topic
is
and all that.
not.
And that's why I love these
Yeah, very
conversations.
nuanced.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what you were saying too about there's like you would have a reaction and you deep down or inside also feel like it wasn't you.
Yeah.
I can so relate to that. I can relate to both. There's parts of me that I thought were absolutely me, and I was like adamant that like this is my belief and this is never going to change. That ultimately changed
Exactly.
and is totally on the other side. And then there's other things that I'm still like I feel that way about now, and I'm like, oh, like what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm one here, I'm like, I know this is me, and on the other side, I'm having this reaction to something that does not feel like me. But then it's like, where do you find that middle ground or the peace that like you're ultimately at? And I think it is to what you were saying. You have to do the work. You have to continue to like examine and explore why you feel the way you do, especially when you have conflicting feelings, because only one of them is actually you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's a
Yeah.
the
really
other
good
is
point.
Yeah.
is something else.
Yeah, that's
I
very
think that's
well
a
said.
really good point.
I was going to say, because we're coming up on time, which I could talk to you forever, but I was going to say, with this being your first podcast, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes,
Thank you
is
absolutely.
so much.
is there anything that we did not ask you that you would like the people to know about you and Duma and your work?
Let me think about that for a moment. I think I'm gonna go with just the basic, like support your the people whose content you're watching. Just like remember to interact with us respectfully and stuff like that. I wish people knew more of that. I guess then when you're interacting with sex workers, that we are just people with like emotions. And we're like onions. Like there's layers and layers and layers. Like just like every other human. So I just wish people can like remember stuff like that and interact with us in like more. Respectful ways online and just end the stigma, please. Please.
I
And
know.
I don't think we shouldn't have to say it, but what is disrespect?
What does it look like?
Yeah, what does that look like for people who are like, you know,
Who are clueless, and
a little
then
bit clueless and thinking they got every right to y'all?
Yeah.
yeah, what is being disrespectful?
Yeah.
What are the things that people that you've experienced or you know sex worker experience that are
People need to
disrespectful?
think twice about if they ain't already.
Yeah, I have to say that my community, like people that subscribe to my OnlyFans, people that comment on our Pornhub videos, have been like 99% super respectful.
That's
I don't know
awesome.
what I did to like deserve this, but I'm very like glad and thankful for that. But what I was talking about more is when I see people that have no idea anything about sex work, they have all these feelings about sex, their own kind of how do I say this? That struggle with these ideas of sex and they have this shame, and then they go and interact with sex workers that are in the industry and know what we are talking about. And I guess what I'm saying is just like don't interact with sex workers and unless you know like what you're saying, like the misinformation, like when you're talking about stuff like, oh, masturbating harmful for your health, like where did you find this information, like where did it come from? And I feel like that's the disrespect I was talking about, when you're trying to talk to people online about sex work and you think you're smarter than actual sex workers or other professionals. Like I see people talking
Yeah.
over like psychologists about stuff like that, and it's just
Yep.
disrespectful in my opinion, and it's causing actual harm. I don't think people often realize that it's causing harm to sex workers, and often it's physical harm because you're teaching generations and generations to hate on sex workers. There's been like serial killers that are targeting sex workers, and it all comes from the stigma that you're often perpetuating online with this conversations that you're making, and there's lack of knowledge and there's excess of shame and stuff like that. So yeah, I just feel like if you don't know what you're talking about and your conversation comes from your icky feelings about sex, just don't leave the conversations to people that have better knowledge about this stuff.
I love that. I think that's great advice. It makes me think of, again, I know I mention her all the time, but Jocelyn Elders in the U.S., she was the former Surgeon General, and how she, back in the 1990s, had encouraged to have better sex education in schools and to talk about masturbation and the health benefits of it. And she's a doctor, and because she dared to say that, which the sex education in the United States is very much lacking in the schools especially, but because she said that, they politicians who had no real sexual education, no expertise, no formalized training, they ended up pressuring to have her fired because she dared to speak the truth and say children should be educated, age appropriately educated around sexuality.
President Clinton issued this written statement, quote, Dr. Elder's public statement reflecting differences with administration policy and my own convictions have made it necessary for her to tender her resignation. Republican critics said it's about time.
And I think today's announcement is a very positive development for America's families. Her war on traditional values, her crusade to legalize drugs, her effort to put condoms in the pockets of every 5-year-old is over.
As Surgeon General, Elders was a strong advocate for birth control and an outspoken supporter of abortion rights and sex education. Before this latest statement, Elders drew fire this same time last year for her position on legalizing drugs.
Yeah, and most of these people commenting, coming from a place of shame, like you were saying, and the shame is from, they're being taught that what they are desiring is wrong. And that's where also, like, we learn about how, like, there's not a lot of actual porn addiction. It's more that people feel like it's excessive. They feel like they're doing something wrong. So it's like a heightened fear or shame that they're experiencing that makes them feel that way. Not saying there isn't ever like
compulsive behavior.
usage, yeah, but I don't think that's typically the case.
Yeah, and the research shows that the
Yeah.
more religiosity somebody
The
has,
more somebody is likely to claim that they are sex addict.
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly, or that they're addicted to porn.
Yeah.
When it's
Yeah,
really
both.
attached to their shame that is deeply embedded in them from whatever their upbringing, cultural stuff, religious stuff, and all of that. But it's always interesting to go back to what you said about people who are willing to deconstruct and question what they've been taught. So often we see politicians who refuse to say, why don't we rethink some of this religious training, some of this religious indoctrination that says, sex is so bad, or being a member of the LGBTQ community is not acceptable, and that kind of stuff. Nope, they always attack the groups, or they attack sex, or they attack sex workers. Why aren't we seeing more conversations from politicians saying, well, maybe some of this religious indoctrination needs to be re-examined? Is it
cowards.
having a bad effect on society? Is it causing people to be unhappy? I mean, if you look at the rates of unhappy marriages in Christianity, especially a lot of the I believe fundamentalists or evangelical, apparently it's significantly higher rates of unhappy relationships. Is there a correlation? Let's put funding towards some studies to get real data and share it. I know private organizations have already done that kind of stuff, so I know some of this is like tongue in cheek, and I know some of these answers already, but it's just interesting. It's a whole nother conversation.
It is a whole nother conversation.
Okay, so it's been dope talking with you. And yeah, I'm so thankful that you did all this, that you talked to us, yada, yada, yada. Where can people, I feel weird coming back from this.
It was great to meet you face to face and chat with you today.
You
Yes,
too.
it was.
I feel like we know each other. Like
I
from
know.
before.
It
It's
just
like,
feels natural.
Yeah.
It makes me really genuinely happy because I love watching Sherri, and I feel the blossoming friendship with y'all.
Aww.
And I love watching it from a distance. It just makes me really happy because I know she appreciates you as a person and your friendship, and it just makes me feel really good. So I've been really looking forward to this episode from that vantage point. So
I loved it so much. Yeah.
it's been really cool. So what was I gonna say?
With that being said,
Yeah, with that being said,
your big room.
yeah. So, thank you for reminding me. If you're watching this and you love this content and you want more of this, please like and share this content. We would appreciate your support. And if you want to see more of our stuff, subscribe to our channel wherever you're watching this. And don't forget to go to sextechandchill.com, hop on our newsletter, because as we talked about in this conversation, we're dealing with a lot of censorship as well. And we're going to be bringing a lot of this stuff into our newsletter to make sure that folks can get it in a way where the platforms have a harder time keeping it away from you. So go to the newsletter, sign up, get on. We will not abuse it. We're not going to share your email and that kind of stuff with anybody. We definitely respect
I think
privacy.
we sent out for a month.
Yeah, for a
2
month.
days.
That way you won't miss the videos and all that good stuff. But yeah, like and share, hit those buttons and all that good stuff. As always, I am Yo Big Rube.
And I'm your girl, Sherri J.
And Duytinya, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so
It has been so great getting to know you. Thank you for joining us. Duytinya and Duma, which Duma is not on camera, but he's very much part of this fly duo that's been making dope content for Angelssex. Can you tell everybody where can they find you and where can they support you online in your various spots?
Yes, well, You can find us on Pornhub, it's Angelssex, but I do recommend subscribing to our OnlyFans because it is the best way to support us. So yeah, come to our OnlyFans, you can chat with us, you can share ideas, we can make videos for you, we can do all sorts of things. So yeah, OnlyFans is the best way to go. It is onlyfans.com/DUYMA, I believe. It's like /Duyma. But I just go to Pornhub and follow the links there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to keep watching your content. Y'all, if you haven't seen their content, it's really cool. I love that they got like their own niche. I think you very much appreciate it as much as we do. And if you have seen their content, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Y'all just like happy to finally get to see them in a podcast. How do we do as being like your first in this area podcast?
You did awesome. I feel like I'm just talking to some friends. It feels very natural, very organic. And I want to thank you both so much for having me here, giving me this platform to talk about my desires and my opinions and stuff. Even though I slept for 4 hours and I cried for 4 hours, so I'm super like weird and everything's super weird right now. But I still want to like thank you for everything. So yeah.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for
Been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, see y'all next time on the flip.
Bye.
And all that.
Bye.
Peace.